We're going to test this RP today. And we'll start by notifying the customer. We're going to inspect their area. We're going to look for any signs of leakage, failure. If you don't see any, we're going to close all the needle valves on your gauge. You should store your gauge with the valves open. We're going to flush our test cocks in this order: 4, 3, 2, 1. Closing in reverse. Then we're going to attach our high hose tube. Low hose goes to 3. The vent can just be loosely attached and not tightened, just to keep it out of the dirt. Then we're going to test check valve 1 to see if it's closed, tight, or leaking. We'll open the low side first and do a low bleed. Leave it on. Same on the high. Open test cock 2, high bleed. Get rid of the air. Close the high. Close the low. Close the outlet valve. Observe. Check valve 1 is apparently it's not leaking. We're going to mark that off as that's a closed tight. Second test is the relief valve opening. We open the high 1 full turn. It's a high control. Low control slightly. That's no more than a quarter of a turn. Hand underneath the relief valve. Watch when it opens. It opened at 2.8. Record a 2.8 opening. That's a pass. It has to be a minimum of 2. We close the low. We leave the high on. Then we move on to the third test, which is the back pressure test on check 2. We first bleed, fill, prime the vent hose, get rid of all the air, and then tighten the hose and close the vent. I'm going to keep my hand on the vent because I have to open it again, and this is a reminder that I have to do that. Open my test cock 4, do a reset on the low bleed, reset my gauge, close the low, and then open the vent. 1 full turn. Now I'm putting back pressure on check 2. The needle should not move, and it should stay at the check valve 1 reading, and the relief valve doesn't drip. So we know the back pressure on 2, check 2 is good. 4 is get the differential on check 1, which is called a actual differential reading, and we simply reset low only and record that reading. Has to be a minimum of 5, and we record 8.2 on 4. 5, close test cock 2 to verify that the outlet valve is not leaking. If it was leaking, when I closed the test cock, the needle on the gauge would drop. If it was leaking with back pressure, the needle on the gauge would rise. So it's not doing either one of those, so it is in fact a good viable valve. So that moves us to the last test. So we close, first step is close the vent, closing test cocks 4 and 3. We can remove these because we're finished with the vents, and simply move the Low to 4 and the high to 3. Then we're going to repeat the way we did the first test on check 1. We'll do the same scenario, same sequence rather. Opening the low side, downstream side first, and do a low bleed, leave it on. Then do the high, bleed it. Oops, wrong valve. Don't open that.
You just told me.
Open the high, close the high. The gauge will get the gauge to reset or go up as high as it will go, and then close the high, and this should be your value for check valve 2. It has to be a minimum of 1 psi, and it is 1 psi.
It's been being like 1.2.
So this assembly passes. Then you go ahead and you close your test cocks. Open all your needle valves. Remove your equipment. Turn the water back on to the customer.